He never spoke to anyone. 23 years tending the school gardens, and most teachers didn't even know his name. Until the day everything changed, and his silence became the most powerful sound in the building. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be remembered, hit that subscribe button. At Al-Noor Elementary, everyone knew him, but no one really knew him. Cohen, just Cohen. That's how it appeared on the staff roster. No first name, no age, just Gardner Cohen. For 23 years, he arrived every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. Same cardigan, same worn gloves, same silence. Al-Noor Elementary in Brooklyn was a place where immigrant children attended. Most children from Arab families, teachers from different cultures, and all of them knew Cohen. He watered the flowers, mowed the grass, swept the walkways. Little Ahmed would say marhaba to him in Arabic, and he would simply nod. Teacher Fatma would try to say good morning in English, and again, the same silent nod. School principal Mrs. Hassan was constantly curious about Cohen. She had tried to check his file several times. There were only basic details. His references were clean, background checks were clear, but there were no specifics. It was as if his life had begun at Al-Noor 23 years ago. Cohen would arrive early each morning and prepare his tools silently. He never rushed. Every movement was planned, every step calculated. While children ran and teachers talked, he just worked. But if you looked carefully, he was actually doing something other than just working. School security guard Ahmed had noticed that Cohen never followed the same route. There was a different pattern every day. Sometimes he would start from the east garden, sometimes from the west. Sometimes he worked close to the main entrance, sometimes in the most distant corners. And his eyes, they were constantly scanning. Even though he appeared to be planting flowers, he was monitoring the surroundings. Main entrance, side doors, windows. Ahmed thought this was just the habit of an experienced gardener. Cohen had a face in his 50s, but his body was still strong. Although his hands appeared calloused from working with soil, the dexterity and reflexes in his fingers were remarkable. Especially in the mornings while drinking tea, the way he held his cup, the way he observed his surroundings. It was as if he was ready to take action at any moment. The children loved him. Even though he didn't speak, he was kind to them. Little Layla loved the rose tree in the garden very much, and Cohen always saved the most beautiful rose for her. Omar was careful not to damage the gardens while playing football because he didn't want to upset Cohen. It was a cold Monday morning in March. The weather was cloudy and there seemed to be fewer children coming to school than usual. Cohen had arrived early as always. He was working in the flower bed near the main entrance. He was dealing with the tulip bulbs he had newly planted, carefully arranging the soil with precise movements. It was exactly 8:47 a.m. The children had just entered their classrooms, the sounds coming from the school corridors, children's laughter, teachers' footsteps going to class for the morning meeting. A normal school morning. Cohen lifted his head and checked around. This was a routine movement. He did it hundreds of times a day. But this time he saw something different. There was a man walking toward the main entrance. Black coat, large sports bag. There was urgency in his walk. But what really caught attention was the expression on the man's face. Cohen recognized this look. Years ago, in a very distant place, under very different conditions, he had seen it. Cohen's hand froze in the soil. He had been waiting for this moment for 23 years. He hoped it would never come, but he was ready. Always ready. The man entered the school. Cohen looked at his watch. 8:48. The children were still in the corridors. A few seconds passed. Then the first scream came. Sharp, fearful. Then the second, the third, running footsteps, panic. Cohen dropped his tools to the ground. He took off his cardigan. Underneath was what he had hidden for 23 years. An old tactical vest, black, light, but protective. It still fit his body perfectly. He began to put on the items he took from the hidden compartment of his garden bag. Radio, Glock 19, spare magazine, tactical knife. Everything was in place, as if he had taken it off yesterday. At that moment, Gardner Cohen disappeared. In his place came Agent Cohen, Mossad Agent David Cohen. The children's screams continued. Cohen ran toward the school building. His steps were heavy but determined. After 23 years, he was back in operation. When Cohen entered the school corridors, what he saw was a nightmare. Teachers were trying to lock children in classrooms. Little Aisha was crying. Omar was standing at the edge of the wall, trembling with fear. Mrs. Hassan was trying to call the police with her phone while trying to convince the children to stay calm. In the main corridor, the attacker was trying to go up to the second floor. He had an automatic weapon in his hand, and what he took out of his bag was even worse. Cohen's experienced eye immediately understood. This wasn't an ordinary attack. This was planned massacre. Cohen made his voice heard. For the first time in 23 years, he spoke in the school corridors. But this wasn't English. It was Hebrew, then Arabic, finally English. "Stop!" The attacker turned. When he saw Cohen, he was surprised. He was expecting an old gardener, but what stood before him was something else. Posture, gaze, movement. Everything had changed. This man knew how to fight. Cohen approached slowly, hands visible, his weapon at his side but not yet raised. This was psychological warfare, one of Agent Cohen's areas of expertise. "Don't harm the children." "Talk to me." The attacker shook his head. "Who are you, old man? Get out of here or I'll kill you too." Cohen smiled. This smile was the same smile that had terrified his enemies in the Middle East 23 years ago. "I'm David Cohen, Mossad, and you made a big mistake." The attacker pointed his weapon at Cohen, but Cohen had already moved. The 23 years spent doing garden work hadn't erased the memory in his muscles. The movement was sudden, precise, not deadly but neutralizing. With his left hand he deflected the weapon. With his right hand he struck the attacker's wrist. The weapon fell to the ground. The following knee strike, the attacker lost his balance. Cohen brought the attacker to the ground and tied his hands with his own tactical restraints. Full procedure, as if he had done it yesterday. "These children are innocent. Why were you trying to harm them?" The attacker replied breathlessly. "Those children, they're from families who occupy our country." Cohen shook his head. "You're an idiot. These children aren't your enemy. They're just children who want to get an education." When the first police sirens were heard, Cohen had already evacuated the children to the safe zone. He had given instructions to Mrs. Hassan in Hebrew, made professional explanations to Ahmed, the security guard. Old Mossad protocols were still in his muscles, in his mind after 23 years. The children were safe now. Little Layla was surprised when she saw the vest on Cohen's chest. "Mr. Cohen, you're not just a gardener, are you?" she had said. Cohen touched her, stroked her hair. "No, little lady. But I'm still your gardener." Omar, with hands trembling from fear, had hugged Cohen. "You saved us," he had said while crying. After Cohen calmed the children, he returned to the attacker. The man was still on the ground, but now fear had replaced anger. He understood who Cohen was. "Are you really Mossad?" he asked. Without answering, Cohen checked the attacker's bag. Whatever he found inside changed his expression. Bombs, Molotov cocktails. This really was a massacre plan. When the police arrived, they found Cohen next to the attacker sitting on the ground, hands behind his back, calm, in control. But what surprised the police was something else, the markings on Cohen's tactical vest on his chest. Commissioner Maria Rodriguez approached. She immediately understood that she was of Latin origin and greeted her in Spanish. Then she switched to English. "Who are you and what happened here?" Cohen looked at her. After 23 years of silence, it was time to tell the truth. "Retired Agent David Cohen, Israel National Intelligence Organization, Mossad, 1975 to 2001. Rodriguez held her breath. She had heard the word Mossad but had never encountered such a situation. "So what are you doing here? And why are you working as a gardener?" Cohen pointed to the attacker. "He came to kill those children." His plan was to burn down the school using bombs and Molotovs. He wanted to finish before the police came. Rodriguez saw the attacker's bag. The materials inside really confirmed what Cohen said. "But why are you here? Why does a Mossad agent work as a gardener in an American school?" Cohen gathered his garden tools. He took off his tactical vest, put his cardigan back on. David Cohen disappeared. Gardener Cohen returned. "I'm doing my job. I've been doing the same job for 23 years, protecting these children." After that day, the story slowly emerged. Mrs. Hassan learned Cohen's true identity after talking to FBI agents. David Cohen was one of Mossad's most experienced agents. In the 70s and 80s, he had taken very critical missions in the Middle East. After the Munich massacre, he participated in Israel's retaliation operations, liquidating PLO cells in Europe. In the 90s, he came to America and worked in joint operations with the FBI, detecting terror organization cells in the U.S., protecting the common security interests of Israel and America. When he retired in 2001, he had completely disappeared, without leaving any trace, until he started working as a gardener at Al-Noor Elementary. FBI agent Sarah Mitchell understood when she examined Cohen's file. Even after retiring, Cohen hadn't lost his sense of duty. Al-Noor was a school where children of immigrant Arab families attended. It was a potential target. Cohen had come to protect the children, and he had waited for 23 years. Al-Noor Elementary was never the same. The children now looked at the quiet gardener differently, but not with fear, with love, because they now knew he had protected them. Teachers now stopped to greet Cohen. Mrs. Hassan would say shalom to him in Hebrew, and he would smile and reply, shalom. Ahmed, the security guard, would say ahlan wa sahlan to Cohen in Arabic. Cohen would respond with perfect Arabic, ahlan bik. But Cohen didn't change. He continued to come at 6 every morning, to water the flowers, to mow the grass. Only now he wasn't completely hidden, and the children who knew they had been saved that day, now began to help with the gardening. Little Layla would help him water the roses. Omar would help mow the grass. One day, little Aisha asked him, "Mr. Cohen, are you still scared?" Cohen looked at her. There was no longer fear in his eyes, but peace. "No, little princess, I'm not afraid anymore, because you are safe." In FBI files, David Cohen's status was listed as Secret Protection Mission, ongoing, because now everyone knew he wasn't just a gardener, he was the children's protector. A 23-year wait had ended in a single day, but David Cohen's mission had never ended, because real heroes don't retire. They just change their methods of service. Did this story remind you of something? Have you ever met someone like this? Someone who served silently, hid themselves, but emerged when needed? Write their name in the comments, because these stories must not be forgotten. And if this story affected you, don't forget to subscribe, because more stories like this are coming. Real heroes aren't always loud, but the best ones usually are quiet. Remember, sometimes the greatest protectors are the quietest ones. And sometimes the man working in your garden isn't just protecting the flowers, but your life too.